Welcome back to What Are Noobs with General Disturbance. This is the T-150. It's a Tier 6 Soviet heavy tank. It's located on the north spawn of Overlord, and this one is under the command of ProvoBob. And for once he's actually landed in a game with no bots in it. Yes, not a single bot. They're all live people. Which means that he's in dire trouble. Well, not quite, but anyway. T-150, it's a project to actually improve the armour of the KV-1. Basically, it is a KV-1, but with extra armour layered on top. They actually increased the armour to 90mm on the external parts of the hull, and eventually they put a new turret on. As you can see, it's a kind of different turret, but internally, it's basically KV-1 all the way through. They put a new engine in, because of course it was asked to carry a much heavier weight, so it could do 700 horsepower instead of the 500 it had before. As you can see, it's got that natty little cupola on top as well. It could fit, or originally the T-150 was fitted with a 76mm gun, which is the F-32. But in actual fact, in the game they fitted them with the 107mm gun, the ZIS-6, which is much more powerful. And we can see which gun the ProvoBob's managed to load onto this one. He's got the 107, yep, which is 300 alpha, 167mm of pen with standard, and he's loaded the APCR straight away because you get 219 mils of pen with those. Now, in actual fact, the T-150 either had the, well, it only had the 76mm. It was supposed to, I believe, have one tank which actually had the 76 and one with an 85mm. And the other tank in the series that they were also ordered, or the Kirov plant was ordered to manufacture, was otherwise known as Object 220, and that became the KV-220 in the end. And again, that was a tank with 100mm of external armour. First shot goes straight through the T-29 and the return shot just hits the tracks. And of course, that had 100mm of external armour. Basically, they started this to improve the KV-1 right from the very start, when the KV-1s had actually just come online. But it was basically a Tier 7 hull, because it's a KV-3 hull, not a KV-1 eventually. This is what became the KV-3. So Tier 7 hull when it comes to armour. Oh, what did he do there? He just fired the round into the ground. That's wasted a round. I think he might have accidentally hit the fire button by mistake. Standard reload is, according to the stats, 9.78 seconds, and he's got 8.61, so he's knocked a second off the reload time. Now, I think he's anticipating those enemy tanks are going to come around the corner any second. If he can angle the armour, it will really help him, because it'll push the armour values up dramatically. The thickness of the armour on the hull is 90mm all round on the T-150. As I said, on the KV-220 it's 100mm. Looks like they bypassed this chine, or at least the Hellcat did. Turret armour is 100mm at the front and at the sides, and 75 at the rear. It is a slightly different turret though. The original ones were just fitted with a KV-1 turret, and then they changed it. Track the T-29, and we can see the AT-6 is trying to come up with his front towards us to avoid getting damaged. Of course, you just go for the cupola, and he might be better off if he was to turn in so his front into the rock and side scrape out on that AT-8. And then he can get multiple shots, and all the guy can hit is his tracks. But you can see he has hit the... oh, and he went through with that one. And it wasn't specifically aimed at the cupola. He went at the armour itself. You can see went in just underneath the gun. That guy stopped him dead in his tracks. Now, if they all come up at the same time, he's going to have trouble, because he's not going to be able to aim at all of them at the same time. He'll have to pick one target, and the others are going to get damage on him. You can also see it, one round has actually gone through the cupola, and another round, oh, he didn't get the kill on that one. Somebody behind him is obviously shooting at that 88, and it was a Firefly 5C. Okay, he's now blocking the shots from the OI, but he's pumping rounds in on the boobies. And one goes through the AR-44, who doesn't have much in the way of armor anyway. And the T-29 did manage to get a hit, because what he's doing is he's showing his lower plate. And that's a weak spot. You shouldn't do that. He pumps one into the OI. I think if we see at the front here, yes. Well, actually, it's not the lower plate they're hitting. It's the front body of the tank. And he'd be much better off if he was side scraping at this point. T-29, yeah, he gets hit again. And now he's only down to 4 hit points. So he can't afford to let that T-29 get another kill. But he pumps one into the bustle on the T-29. Gets a nice solid hit for 284. A low roll. He can probably get the top. Tries. It wasn't that accurate, that shot, I'm afraid. It was fully dialed in, but... Oh, and the T-29's gone, so the threat from that guy's gone, but we can hit the AR-44 just behind the OI, and yes, we do. And now he's got 20% of the enemy hit pool, which means he might actually have a high caliber. And the ARL's gone, which means that the only tank down the beach we know about is the Hellcat. And he's actually come up the other chine, and he's now behind our cap area. We're 4 up on the enemy. But you can see ProvoBob's only got 4 hit points left. So really now he's got to snipe at the enemy. He's only got 1 round left of APCR though. So, well, now we're 5 up because they got the Hellcat. So he's decided he's going to help the T-29 who's just around the corner. Try and advance on the enemy. He might be knocked out at this point because if the enemy are ready and waiting, and they do have a box tank, and the box tank is down by the near the coastal area, the cliff area, he might be the first one that sees him. Can't see him yet. View range on this tank is 330 meters. There's the box tank. Okay, so he knows where he can move up without being damaged. And the box tank is busy enough at the moment because it looks like the enemies, or it looks like his teammates are actually piling in the shots. And he actually is sitting behind the bunker, so we can keep driving without fear. And that means now there's... Oh, that's it! It was a low number game. Here's the end of battle stats, and that was a first-class tank for ProvoBob in the T-150. He managed to get a fire for effect for doing more damage than hit points to his own vehicle, and he got a high caliber for dealing the most damage in that game overall, and his win rate was 3,678. I think he would have ended up with more hit points if he'd actually put his front end into the cliff and then reverse back out to give them a glancing blow. But it looked like the enemy were trying to get the actual main body of the tank rather than anything else, and just using APCR to penetrate him. If we look at the team score, we can see he got 2,355 hit points, and it does help if you have a good gun with a high alpha, which means you can rack up quite a lot of damage very, very quickly. 2,355 went to him. The second highest damage went to the enemy VK3002D. That's an 88mm gun, so of course he had a high alpha. And the third highest damage went to our Super Hellcat with 1,468. The SU-152 on our team got a Brothers in Arms, and so did the T-29, so they both got 3 kills apiece. If we look at the number of kills, we can see that, well, ProvoBob didn't get any kills at all, but he was getting damage on the enemy. The top scorers were the SU-152, the T-29, and the Pasotto, all got 3 kills apiece. 2 kills went to the Super Hellcat and also to the MX-1375 on the enemy team. And when it came to base XP, he was right at the top of the table with 1,131, because of course he was a tier 6 heavy tank in a tier 7 game. So he was getting extra XP for all the high-tiered shots that were connecting. That is the ones on the T-29. And so he got 1,131. The next highest scorer was the Super Hellcat with 757, and then we've got the T-29 with 734. He fired 18 rounds, got 14 direct hits on the enemy, but only 8 penetrations. Yes, he did spend a few rounds on that 88, trying to find the weak spot that would actually go through. 2,355 hit points, all of it done at close range. Received 8 hits from the enemy, 4 of which penetrated, 4 non-penetrations, and 650 hit points of damage blocked by armor. 4 enemy vehicles spotted, 4 enemy vehicles damaged, none killed, but 950 hit points of damage assistance. He was spotting for the tanks that were sitting behind him, shooting down the chine towards the enemy. 50,438 credits on a premium count, 70,000 for completing a mission, 120,438 altogether, and after repair, ammunition, resupply and consumables, he came away with a profit of 33,507 credits. 1,696 XP times 2 for the first victory, 3,394 for completing a mission, 6,787 experience points altogether. Let's have a quick look at the armor profile for this tank. As I said, it's basically a KV-1 with a different turret, but extra armor mounted on top of the hull. You can see here the 90mm that was fitted. I think it was just extra steel plate that was actually fitted over the various parts. 90mm there at the front, angled, coming out at 96. The upper plate there, 75mm, coming out at 130 because it was so well angled. 120mm here, coming out at 202 because again it's slightly angled. And the lower plate you can see here, 90mm again, coming out at 116. The turret from the front is, well, it's nice and rounded, the shape of this turret. So looking here, you'd say it was 100mm, but it's actually coming out at 170. The mantlet is not so strong. You can actually penetrate that because it's only 100mm. So aiming towards the mantlet on one of these, if you've got enough pen, will actually pen. And I think that's what the enemy were trying to do. They were trying to hit his turret and his gun, and that's why the shells were all going in this particular area, because they knew that there was a weakness on the mantlet area of the T-150. The composer is a weak spot as well, 75mm. It sticks up rather straight, and it's only, well, it's nice that even with the rounded bit, you can see you can easily pen through, especially if you can hit. Okay, I think I just had a bit of a problem there with my sound. But anyway, carrying on, if we look at the live model, okay, we can see that from the front it looks like the hull is vulnerable to the 107, but the turret is rounded, so obviously it's a little more able to withstand shells from, say, a 107mm. Yes, you might be able to withstand shells. I think it's actually, we're showing here what the 76mm, is that the 76mm gun? That is the 76mm. Let's put the 107mm back, and then we'll go for the 76mm. You can see from a 76mm perspective, this tank is very, very strong. If you have an enemy who's got a 57mm, they should have a little easier to try and pen, but they're still going to have difficulty. And if they're using the 107mm, then most of the hull is vulnerable, but the turret is not. So there you go. That's the T-150. Let's have a quick look at the modules. There you go. That's up. It is basically, as I said, KV-1 hull. We've got the driver on the left-hand side on this one, and the driver's mate on the right-hand side. In the turret on the left-hand side, we've got the gunner. Right-hand side, we've got the commander. He's got the cupola, so that's why he's vulnerable. He can be taken out if you can aim a shell at that spot. Got the loader on the just behind the gunner on the, well, he's actually behind the breech, and 2 ammo racks in the bustle. So if you can get around through the bustle, you should be able to ammo rack this thing. You can see that the engine is all at the back with the fuel tanks in the middle, and in fact actually more on the left-hand side of the tank than they are on the right-hand side, but there's a big ammo rack in the floor. You can, if you aim through the tracks into the floor of the vehicle, you might get an ammo rack, but you're much better off aiming specifically for the bustle of this tank, because that will more than likely actually set the thing off and make it go explosively. So I hope you enjoyed that replay. If you did, please give this video a like. Do subscribe to our channel. Leave a little comment down below because it feeds the algorithm. And thank you for watching.